Tokyo Revengers. Probably the hottest new anime as of recently, and I could totally see why, as I'm one of the many fans of the series. It's hard not to love the character, story, and how everything just molds and adapts together, and this is amplified even more when viewing through our main character Takemichi. Let me explain why. Before that though, remember to like and subscribe if you end up enjoying the video. Alright, so going back to episode 1, we follow the life of a 26-year-old Hanagaki Takemichi, who was living a miserable life. Whether it's on the train or at work, he had always been pushed around by others, and with the low self-esteem he had built up, who always let them walk over him, apologizing for the littlest things. One day he's watching TV in his very tidy apartment, where he hears news about Hinata Takibana being killed by a truck. While the name sounds familiar, he doesn't realize it at first, trying to think where he has heard that name before. And that's when it clicks that he realizes she was his old girlfriend that he had in middle school. And he doesn't really have any particular reaction to this news, just continuing on with his day. That's when he's at the train station reflecting on his life, and on how he ended up in such a sorry state, pitying himself, which is when a mysterious person who we don't get a full view of, only seeing their hands, pushes Takemichi off the platform and into the train tracks. And staring at the train a few feet in front of him, he didn't think of his friends or family or even about himself, only thought about Takibana Hinata. This is where he gets isekai'd back into middle school, which he describes as where he peaked in life, being second in charge of a gang he made with his middle school friend. Thinking that this was just his life flashing before his eyes, he was just going along with it and hanging out with his buddies. That's when he realizes that he's exactly 12 years ago from present day, but still he doesn't really catch on to what's really going on. He goes out to eat with his middle school buddies, where they then talk about how they are going to go fight this other group of second year middle schoolers, since they called them weak and scared. They said since they had Takemichi's cousin named Masaru backing them, everyone would be too scared to mess with them. Takemichi didn't really agree with it, but he had no choice but to go along with them. While looking for the second years, they instead run into the third years of the same school of the second years they were about to fight. One of Takemichi's friends name drops Takemichi's cousin, who they had thought was the third year's leader, which is when the third years start laughing at them. They then proceed to yell for Masaru to come forward, who was all the way in the back of the group, and threatens him, making him pay for the drinks for all of them, showing how all the talk he had told them was all a lie to impress them. They then proceed to get beaten to a pulp by the third years. After being beaten by them, he then remembers how they were all forced to run errands for them, and were being pushed around by them on the daily, which is why when Takemichi had graduated middle school, he left his hometown and started living on his own. But then he would mess up and have his habit of apologizing for everything, with the root cause being his interactions with the 30 years. Then skip to 12 years in the future, which leads him ending up the way he does in the beginning of the first episode. Later that day, after being beaten by the 30 years, he decides to go visit Hinata, his old middle school girlfriend. When he finally actually meets her again, only then is when he realizes how important she was to him, always keeping him in check and worrying about him. After leaving, he heads to a park where he sees a kid getting bullied by older kids for his money, which pisses him off with everything he had gone through today, and so he beats up the older kids and scares away them, protecting the little one. After saving him, he talks with the little kid, only to realize that he's Hinata's little brother Naoto, and for some reason that probably even Takemichi couldn't explain, he tells Naoto how he's seeing things in the perspective of 12 years in the future, including the day that Hinata and him gets killed. He tells him to remember the day it happens, and to go protect his sister, which Naoto then agrees and shakes his hand, which is when he's brought back 12 years into the present day, in a hospital bed, which is then where he meets Naoto, who is now 12 years older and a police officer, showing that he didn't really have a flash before your eyes moment, but had quite literally traveled through time 12 years ago and had changed the future. After heading back to Naoto's house, to further discuss, they talk about his power and how it exactly works. After that, they study all about Tokyo Manji Gang, because they plan to go back in time and get involved with them to stop them from later on killing Hinata down the road, which is what leads to Takemichi going back and have everything that has happened lead up to the current point in the story, with how Takemichi has been presented as a weak-minded main character who always doubts himself and makes the events that happen even more radiant. Things like Mikey taking down another gang leader in one hit, or pretty much anything crazy that has happened, looks even better because we see it in the perspective of a normal person, which would be Takemichi in this instance. He's like a sort of catalyst, you could say, that the viewer can use to delve into the world and view it from his view, seeing all these people and all these crazy things. I think it was a smart move making Takemichi a weak person, instead of a strong character that flips the whole story on its head. Because while he does do it, it isn't done through him, but with the characters that he interacts with. If he was just strong from the get, there would be no development with his character, and not much about him would change. But with him starting weak, we can see over time how his experiences and people he meets change him as a character, and help him face his past where he had previously ran away from. He fails and gets hurt a lot, but he also doesn't give up, and it only pushes him to try again, because he wants to change not only himself, but his entire past, and make the best out of this second opportunity life has given him. That's pretty much all I had to say. It's not too common we see characters like Takemichi, but when we do, it's a breath of fresh air. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Peace.